get started, we're just going to give everybody a little taste here as others are wandering in of one of our surrogates, because I know some of you went to the personal stories panel, but we just want to give you a little bit of a glimpse of some of our former surrogates. And by the way, that was our former surrogate on there, Chelsea. She's one of our former surrogates. So this is another one. She joined us in San Francisco for the men having babies. This is Julie, a married mother of 2 children. She's a stay-at-home mother. She has a strong support system in her friends and family. She delivered twins for us in May of 2016 for an international same-sex couple. And she's currently matched to do a second journey with some more intended parents. And here are things in her own words. She said, "I've been blessed with my own family and also helped bless another family with each other. I'm a firm believer that everyone who will unconditionally love their children deserve to have that miraculous bond. I'm starting my second journey with Creative Family Connections. This team of inspiring individuals," thank you, Julie, "have been there for every step of this complex but amazing journey, not only for me, but for so many other hopeful families and amazing surrogates. I can't wait to share this next experience with them and to meet the next family I will have the opportunity to get to know and love." So those are Julie's words. So thank you all for coming this afternoon. When you're choosing a surrogacy agency, you're selecting an agency that you can trust, because you're looking for someone that you can trust, who in turn will find you a surrogate who you can trust and who you have that amazing feeling of, oh my gosh, she's going to do an amazing job of caring for us. So that's what you're looking for, because there's just a lot of trust in the whole surrogacy journey. So let us introduce ourselves. I'm Diane Hinson. I'm the owner and founder of Creative Family Connections. We're based in the DC area, but we have clients up and down the coast, throughout the country, and internationally. This is Nikki Renslau.
Hello. I'm a case manager and a former surrogate myself.
And so we're going to talk a little bit about Nikki's former journey, which was with another agency, and how that contrasts with what she sees now as a case manager. But before we do, let me talk to you a little bit about how I think we're different from other agencies. And I talked a little bit about that this morning in my 2-minute introduction. But it is something that I think makes us unique. And that's that we are an integrated entity, a law firm. So we are a law firm that is also a surrogacy agency. And just to tell you how unique that is, there is not another surrogacy agency at this conference today that is set up that way. There's really only a handful of agencies like that throughout the country. There's some here who own a law firm and a surrogacy agency, but we're integrated. So the question is, well, what does that mean for you, right? Because otherwise, what do you care how we're set up? So there are a few reasons that matters for you. First of all, there is a lot that has to do with the law when it comes to picking surrogates. Many of you may have already seen this map, and this is the map. There is no national law when it comes to surrogacy. It's all very much state by state. And so what we did is we're the ones who made the map. And what we've done is divided up into green light, red light, yellow light states. Orange is sort of a dark yellow, which is ones we would stay away from, because we're cautious, because it's your parentage rights. We would only match you to surrogates who live in green light states, where we can get you under a court order that says you have all the parentage rights, the surrogate and her spouse have none, and both of you can go on the birth certificate. That's just really important, because this is your baby, this is your life. So that's the first thing. But second of all, you get certain rights when you're working with lawyers, and lawyers are very regulated, agencies are not. So right from the start, when you have a discussion as a prospective client, you have confidentiality. The attorney-client privilege attaches, and everything you say, including even your names, are confidential. And that's not true if you're talking to an agency. So you get that right from the start. Also, it's very clear that your interest is paramount. I go to these conferences, and there are always these big discussions about, well, where does my allegiance lie? Is it to the parents? Is it to the surrogate whose journey I'm facilitating? Well, it's an easy question for us, because the client's interest is paramount when you're a lawyer. So your interest is paramount. Now we're going to facilitate her journey because a happy womb makes for a happy baby, and that's good for our parents. But in terms of where our allegiance lies, well, that's easy. You're our client. So everything we learn from the surrogate, we're going to tell you, whether it's good or bad news. You are going to hear it. It makes our decision very easy. But she's going to have her own lawyer. She has her own protections. You're our client. And that's really important, I think, for you to know that you have someone that has your interests at the forefront of this journey. And also it protects your money. If you're talking to other agencies, you should ask them, what happens to your money? I mean, I look on websites and I see things that when you pay that first big installment or second installment, that your money is non-refundable. And that's not how it works with attorneys. You pay your money, it goes into a lawyer's trust fund, the interest actually goes to the legal bar for pro bono cases, but it's your money. It's held in trust for you. And then as we earn it, it's transferred over to our operating account, but only as we earn it. So let's say this happened once. I mean, it doesn't happen often, but let's say one of you gets sick and you say this is not a good time to have a journey. What happens? Is your money non-refundable? Well, with an agency, maybe. You need to find that out. But with a law firm, the answer is yes, it's your money. So let's say we've done 2 months worth of work, we've earned that, but everything else is sitting in that trust fund and it gets refunded to you. And it's all on good terms, and then if there's a right time to start again, you can start again. So I think that's really important. It's your money, it's protected. Our goal is to make the journey as happy as possible, as stress-free as possible, and legal and ethical. And that's really important to me, to do it in an ethical way. So, Nikki, I want to ask you some questions, and why don't you come here because we're going to share this mic. All right. So, as I mentioned, Nikki is a former surrogate, but she did it with someone else. So I'm going to ask Nikki why she wanted to become a surrogate.
This is an easy one, but I always like to talk from the heart. So in all reality, I lived in Arizona at the time. I had a lot of friends, especially a lot of gay friends, who were always like, I really want a baby. What do I need to do? And thinking to myself, I've had the best pregnancies, the easiest deliveries. I had a couple friends who were surrogates, and I really started thinking about it, and I'm like, this is something that I can do. Really big into the LGBTQ community, and I'm like, I'm going to give this a shot. And so I did, and I have to say it's one of the best decisions I've ever done. I've ever made, excuse me. Obviously, having your children is the best thing in the entire world, right? Everybody, it's fantastic. It's the best feeling. But watching a family that you help create and the look on my dad's faces, it makes me super emotional, but it was amazing. And I always say I wish I could kind of bottle up that feeling and give it to everybody because it's just like really euphoric. It was so cool to say, here's your family. I had twins. You've gone from a family of 2 and a family of 4. And I kind of helped did that. It was fantastic.
So now I have to say that we're cautious when we're matching you. So Arizona is a dark yellow state, which means surrogacy is done there. Parentage orders are granted, but the surrogacy agreement itself is null and void. It cannot be enforced. So to us, that's too risky for you. We would not match you, and it's only because she was working for someone else that she was able to be a surrogate. So we think it's just too risky. So now you've become a case manager for us, and maybe you want to just give a few words about what made you decide to become a case manager.
Absolutely. So living in Arizona, there's clearly no surrogacy agencies. I really lucked out that my husband's job brought us over on the East Coast. And once I saw the job position kind of pop up, it kind of fell in my lap a little bit. I jumped at the chance. I gave up 12 years in mortgage to become a case manager. I unfortunately was disqualified for being a surrogate, which I'll get into a little bit later with my preterm and all that. And I'm like, this means so much to me. This is such an amazing thing. Now I would like to kind of help facilitate the journey on the backside. And so I wouldn't really give Diane a break until she hired me, to be honest with you. And it's the second best decision that I've made because it's absolutely amazing. I love it. So now I get to see all you guys get your families created on the back end.
Well, it was a phenomenal decision from our perspective as well. Nikki is a wonderful case manager, and she's got that perspective of having been a surrogate. So you are assigned a case manager at our firm when you're matched to your surrogate, and that case manager is your dedicated person and also your surrogates. But remember, the confidentiality runs between you and your case manager and with us. So whatever we find out about your surrogate, we're going to tell you. But there can be confidentiality in what you tell your case manager. So because Nikki has worked elsewhere as a surrogate, we don't want to badmouth anyone else, but it's interesting to see some of the differences and places where we think we go above and beyond what would be a minimum requirement. So some of that's in our pre-screening. We do such a rigorous pre-screening. We only take 2% of all surrogate candidates who apply. Our test is, would we let this woman carry our baby? Would we feel comfortable with that? So if we do any one-on-ones, we'll go through the whole process with you. But our very last step is to do an in-home interview. And that's just there's no extra fee for that. There's no extra charge for any plane fare or train fare, whatever. But this was something that Nikki mentioned was one of the things that she was pleasantly surprised by. So why don't you talk about that?
I was very surprised, and I love the fact that we do them because someone on our team is going to go to your surrogate's house and meet her husband, her kids in person. This is a big deal. For instance, let's say I have a surrogate who on paper says, I'll be fine terminating for Down syndrome, and that's one of your preferences. If I ask her this in person and she's crying, or her husband's giving off that body language, like, I'm not really comfortable with terminating for Down syndrome, we're going to have the conversation and say, maybe we should match you with parents who you thought these were your preferences, but they might be a little bit different. I'm going to make sure her home is clean. Her home is someplace that I'm going to look at her and say, would I be comfortable with her carrying my children in this environment? I've met her husband, I've met her kids, and we're going to write that all up in a beautiful report for you to read and to kind of give you that look into her life, which I think is incredibly beneficial in making your decision.
And if she's, crying when she says, oh, I'd terminate for Downs, but, it would be so sad, it's not just that we want this to be a happy journey for everyone, but I have this saying, not on my watch. So if she's feeling this way already and she doesn't even have your baby in her uterus, that's not a good match. So we'll just hold her for someone who knows that they wouldn't terminate for Down syndrome. It really is important to us that everybody's on the same page. So when we find someone that we think is a really good match for you, we set up a match meeting. And we do that a little bit differently too. So I'm going to let Nikki talk about that. We have a few minutes left.
Yes. So with a match meeting, we call it a chaperone first date. I'm going to guide you through and really introduce you to one another so you don't have kind of that awkward first connection. I was given a Skype address and hey, good luck. So yeah, we're going to make sure to actually facilitate that for you. And it'll probably be like the last awkward conversation that you'd really need to have, because at that point you're really going to have gotten to know her and decide if you really want to move forward with her. So it's really nice to be a part of that.
And then after that, any awkward conversations that need to occur will be on us. Yes. We're the ones who will have that awkward conversation for you. You just get to be her cheerleaders. That's the good thing about having an agency that's going to have a dedicated case manager for you for forever after. And that leads right into support.
Yes. So a lot of agencies may contact her once or twice a month. I talk to surrogates sometimes every other day, text, email, phone, which is nice because the more I get to know her, the more she'll be comfortable to come to me with things that I can come to you about. I'm not going to do just the twice a month check-in like, hey, are you okay? Still pregnant? Great. I'm really going to make sure I know what's going on in her life so you know what's going on in her life.
And that goes right up through the second trimester. We go to court and we get the parentage order so that you are named as the parent and parent, or father and father, depending on where what state it's in. And then we go to the hospital and we say, hey, we're going to have this upcoming delivery. And oh, by the way, it's a surrogacy delivery. And they're like, oh, thank you for telling us. They don't want to be blindsided, but we also don't want you to be out in the hallway going, hey, wait for us. We want to be in the delivery room. So we want you to have the rights to be in the delivery room. We want you to have the medical decision making. We want you to have the bands that go around her wrist. We want you to have the discharge rights, and we also ask for a room for you in the hospital so that then you can have the baby with you, and the surrogate's down the hall, and she can come and visit you, and her children can say, "Oh, that's what was in mommy's tummy," and it works out really well. And then the nurses are like, "Ha, I can teach them how to be parents," but it's like, she has her privacy to recuperate at night. You've got the baby in your room, but it's not that way in every agency. And so we won't get into all the details of what you're.
I'll go quick. That is true. Not unfortunately. I mean, I went into preterm labor at 31 weeks and had the twins at 32 weeks, which is, like I stated, why I'm disqualified. We did not have a birth plan, and my guys, unfortunately, were in Europe and missed their delivery because we didn't know exactly what was going to happen with the preterm labor. Emergency C-section. And when my husband asked my social worker at the surrogacy agency, well, who's making the medical decisions because the guys are on a plane trying to get to Arizona, she goes, "Oh, Nikki is." I'm like, "Oh, okay, at 32 weeks, I'll go ahead and make the decisions, obviously, for twins. Thank goodness everything's okay. They just turned 4 in October, but it was a little scary. With the birth plan, we'll make sure if there ever was an emergency, there is a listed point of contact if we can't get a hold of you to make those decisions that are going to be in your best interest."
But our real goal is to make sure that you're there and present for the delivery. And again, we want to make sure that it's as stress-free as possible. So that's where we're going to guide you. So